On December 9, 1957, an incredible event occurred within the UK. Now known as the Silpho saucer incident, it has become known within UFO enthusiast circles as the UK's Roswell. It was a story that was first released within the Yorkshire Post. It told of a mystery disc that was found on the Yorkshire moors. Scarborough businessman Frank Dickinson, along with two friends, were driving through a place known as Reesty Hill, near the village of Silpho, when their car mysteriously stalled as a glowing object appeared in the sky above them, subsequently landing in the borax forest. Mr. Dickinson and his friends bravely pursued the downed craft and found a mysterious metallic saucer in a patch of freshly cindered bracken. Amazingly, when the artifact was cut open, apparently a tiny book was found within, made of 17 thin copper sheets covered in 2,000 unknown hieroglyphs. Interestingly, similar hieroglyphics were also supposedly found among the wreckage of the UFO that allegedly crashed at Roswell, New Mexico in June 1947. The remains of the Silpho Moor object were subsequently sent to a London laboratory for examination in 1963, including a perplexing fused section of the metal and plastic which was apparently from the outer casing. Gordon Claringbull, a funded academic from the Natural History Museum who specialized in meteorites and explosives, said in a memo to the Science Museum that he was prepared to wager anything that the pieces of metal were made on Earth. However, although the scientific community was predictably skeptical, Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding, who led the RAF during the Battle of Britain during World War II, examined the Silpho saucer in 1958. He actually believed it was genuine. Describing it as a, quote, miniature computer-piloted flying saucer, Lord Dowding was openly convinced it was a genuine artifact from space, according to the report in the Yorkshire Post. The results of the analysis found that the artifacts contained an unusually pure set of metals, cast in highly specific ways, fueling the UFO community's interest in the object's fragments. Will more modern specific analysis shed more light on this enigmatic object's origins? We will keep you posted on any future developments.
In the Museum of the Unexplained in Reed Spring, Missouri, a rather peculiar artifact can be found. Known as the Bob White artifact, Bob was driving with a friend down a Colorado highway one night in 1985, when they would both experience a close encounter. As the craft flew over Bob's head, according to Bob, it dropped him a gift, an object which has caused Bob numerous issues. Quote, "I don't know about you, but as for me, every time I hear people from Skeptic magazine lying through their teeth, it makes me sick. They say they have never seen any hard evidence of UFOs. This is only true because they refuse to look at this, a piece of a UFO. So the next time you see the Skeptic magazine people on Larry King or some other TV program saying there is no physical evidence, you will know they are lying. I have challenged them to debate me, but they are afraid. So, Skeptic magazine, you have been exposed for the fraud that you are." That was a statement made by Bob White in the late 90s. He further claimed that in 1996, he was flown to the classified Los Alamos National Laboratory for a detailed analysis of his evidence. White was told by senior staff that the object he recovered was indeed of extraterrestrial origin, also confessing to have successfully collected another object similar to his before. Although the officials fervently denied these claims, in 2000, Bob managed to acquire U.S. Army documents dating from the 1940s titled UFOs in Denmark. In it were multiple images of an object nearly identical to the one he had. When Dr. Rudolph Olson of Carolina examined the artifact, he concluded, quote, "To describe the Bob White object in the simplest possible way, I think you can say it is an agglomeration of rapidly cooled droplets or particles of an aluminum-silicon alloy. With such an unusual structure, I can only speculate on how it was formed. It turns out that this artifact was free-formed, or more precisely, it was somehow cast in a zero-G environment without the use of a mold. It has been to over 15 labs and universities over the past 21 years, including Los Alamos, Sally, New Mexico, etc. If the artifact had been on a machine or a grinder of some sort, there would inevitably have been forensic evidence left upon the artifact. All we know is that it was in a molten state when ejected into a vacuum under extreme pressure within extremely cold conditions. Although Bob White's artifact rarely gains any attention anymore, it is clearly a most compelling piece of evidence in support of the possibility of alien visitation.
Researcher Isaac Qua has published some startling yet not widely known details regarding some unusual space debris that was found in northern Saskatchewan in 1968. It is the largest UFO fragment ever found and was later definitively concluded to have come from space. However, at the time the Canadian military and government could not definitively explain what it was from and somehow managed to escape the clutches of secrecy. Also, the Canadian government has been in a mode of disclosure for some time anyway, making UFO documents available for decades at the archives in Ottawa. Only recently they scanned several thousand documents and put them online. The found space debris is one of a number of known, documented crashes of objects in Canada. If you were a government official, how would you react to receiving an official memo with a title beginning UFO found? What if the memo also referred to a metal fragment, examination of which revealed the exhibit had likely formed part of a vehicle that traveled in outer space and attached relevant photographs? Well, one Canadian official received such a memo in November 1968, along with related memos and photos of the metal fragment. I do not recall seeing any discussion of this memo in any of the UFO books I've read. Dated the 14th of November 1968 from the F Division of CIB, presumably the Criminal Investigation Branch of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, entitled UFO Found in Northern Saskatchewan, is one part of a set of documents and photos relating to a piece of metal. This astounding official memo states that examination revealed the exhibit had likely formed part of a vehicle that traveled in outer space. The relevant documents indicate that a 99% titanium fragment with a white, ceramic-like crystalline material on one side was found in or around October 1968, but tests indicated it had been down for more than 90 days in the Wollaston Lake area of Saskatchewan, Canada. This other official memo, dated the 24th of October 1968, discloses that the object was titanium 99% pure, 4 foot long and 2.5 feet wide, and weighed between 10 and 15 pounds. This makes the fragment the largest alien piece from a satellite that has ever landed on Earth. That memo indicates that a local newspaper, the Leader Post, was aware of the find. A handwritten annotation indicates the NRC should release information about the find, including the fact that the RCMP lab identified the object. Yet no media coverage ever happened. Man-made satellites are also supposedly made of aluminium, not pure titanium. Here are some crashed satellite images. Note, none come close to the alien-looking appearance of the Canadian fragment. A report dated the 29th of October 1968 gives the results of a determination of the chemical composition of the object, indicating it was high-purity titanium. Higher than previously believed, freelance artist, known as freelance_anarchist, accepted a challenge to create a concept of what part of a craft the fragment may have come from. What do you think it is? Was it actually part of a downed UFO? It appears that this is exactly what it was, if you go by publicly disclosed official records. Does this titanium fragment found in Canada answer the greatest question of our age?
The following amazing story was published by a David Campbell on a site known as ViewZone. It was a report regarding an incredible find within Oklahoma, subsequently chased up by David and his wife on location. Although the story gained very little media attention, the details along with the photographs of the event we have found extremely interesting, especially when we took into account our previous research regarding the strange ancient anomaly known as Waffle Rock, a half-buried suspected fragment of a once larger object of possible alien origins, which has remained half-buried, resting where it struck the Earth all those years prior, now submerged underwater as the result of a controversial reservoir project which swallowed the stone and the town which had built up around it. David recalled the event with his wife on the site. They had just returned from a weekly 600-mile distribution route to find a somewhat urgent message from a reader in Colbert, Oklahoma. The caller gave some extremely vague instructions on getting to the place. No names and no callback details. Intrigued by the story, they figured the worst that could happen was that they would have a nice Sunday in the mountains. After getting to the vague location given, and after several hours of searching the woods, they eventually came across an extremely peculiar-looking, possibly cyclopean wall. Their initial investigations baffled them. They had never seen ancient stone structured in such a way. They highly suspected that it was of artificial origin due to the small apparent stones tightly interlocking which made up its structure. It wasn't until they climbed atop that they must have realized the true scale of their discovery. From the other side, the stones appear to be a highly complex arrangement of interlocking different mineral or metallic compounds, often displaying a honeycomb structure, the layers of which are a result of highly accurate cast layers stacked together to make interlocking blocks of iron-like stone. He recalled on the site, quote, "What I saw there began to seep into my brain like ice water. Jumbled about in haphazard fashion were acres of squared, dressed, and notched stones. It was eerie standing on those shattered ramparts with all those tumbled stones like a desecrated cemetery." End quote. Were these strange fragments possibly once a single and very large object? They clearly share similarities with Waffle Rock, which is located in West Virginia. Are both these anomalous items connected? Were they once part of a very old and now semi-fossilized alien craft? What David has discovered may be another piece of the puzzle regarding the Waffle Rock mystery. Often, cases of strange rocks made up of strange metals are attributed to furnace activity. Yet I hope more investigation into this clearly huge and perplexing site is undertaken. How could this strange object possibly have come to be resting, broken into fragments within an Oklahoma forest? Another strange object made from a similar anomalous mineral metallic-like material is the ancient Baltic Sea anomaly. Are both of these strange artifacts ancient spaceships? More details regarding David and Sue's curious discovery is clearly needed. We will keep you posted.
We previously covered an intriguing discovery made within a forest in Oklahoma, discovered by David Campbell and his wife, while following up on a curious lead. This discovery, as previously discussed, is a compelling link to Waffle Rock, another anomalous relic we've previously covered. Embedded in the dirt where it struck the ground many years prior, numerous specialists have postulated that it could be a fragment of an artificial craft which disintegrated in the sky. What was astonishing regarding David's discovery was the similar structure of the object which they discovered, also partially buried and scattered amongst the woods, possibly the debris of this once enormous craft, created using an intricate layering design of unknown metals, minerals, and alloys. Although further studies of this compelling discovery have yet to be established, it is with understandable caution that those with knowledge of the area move forward. It must be noted that Waffle Rock, once a local landmark, had attracted a flurry of attention from geologists, scientists, and ufologists who had begun to ponder its unique and otherworldly characteristics. That was until the United States government moved in and submerged the artifact under several meters of water. The entire town, which had built up around this ancient object, were forced out to make way for a reservoir which flooded the entire area. We have therefore undoubtedly been compelled to research further regarding David's amazing discovery, also due to our extensive understanding of the studies undertaken upon Waffle Rock and this site's similarities with such. And unsurprisingly, we've not been disappointed with what's been unearthed. It seems folks have been fully aware of the unusual, quote, mineral deposits within the Oklahoma area for quite some time. It seems possible that the entire area is an ancient crash site of a once enormous alien craft. Known as the Oklahoma Mystery Stones, could these unexplainable fragments have once been part of an ancient spaceship? Found throughout Oklahoma, they are often mistaken for man-made objects, this clearly being due to their artificial appearance. And Oklahoma is not the only place we feel there could indeed be fragments of an ancient alien craft which crashed here on Earth. The founder of Mystery History gained access to detailed sonographic imagery showing the bottom of the Baltic Sea late last year. And now, due to the findings which were chased up by mainstream media outlets in early January, several other independent investigators surrounding Ocean X's discovery have arrived at the same suspicions. We strongly feel, due to our research, that the Baltic Sea anomaly is but a fragment of a much larger crash area which covers the seabed. Could these two objects have been part of the same ancient event? It seems while trying to solve one mystery surrounding these anomalies, you will often be confronted with several more. As always,
The Nazca Lines, unquestionably one of the most enigmatic ancient sites on Earth. Enormous ancient artworks that since their modern discovery, a number of individuals have attempted to, and seemingly failed to, adequately explain. Created to such enormous scale, many of these theories put forward demanded the utilization of advanced ancient flying machines just to enable their full appreciation. However, what many are not aware of is another particularly baffling structure that litters Nazca. Known as puquios, they are stone structures which corkscrew deep into the ground, each connected to a channel of groundwater far below the surface. It must be noted, for many millennia, the ancient sites these mysterious structures connected, and indeed the locations in which they are found within, have endured brutal episodes of drought, and for any ancient civilization to have flourished here would have required tremendous skills and ingenious solutions. And the puquios could undoubtedly be perceived as striking examples of this, displaying this ancient group's high level of intelligence. Not only that, but we feel strong indication of a civilization who had drastically more capability and technology at their disposal than that of the Incas. And although modern academia attempt to discreetly shrug off such astonishing works of ancient genius with the simple term pre-Incan, we believe that these pre-Incans they speak of were once part of a civilization far in advance of anything funded individuals will ever willingly admit to. As explained by Rosa La Saponara of the Institute of Methodologies for Environmental Analysis, satellite imagery has discovered a remarkable past function to these once mysterious spiral holes. They have realized that they were an ancient complex hydraulic system designed to extract and move groundwater over tremendous distances beneath the arid landscape above them. According to La Saponara, examining satellite images has allowed scientists to analyze the movement of pumped water throughout the desert. Quote, "All holes were interconnected via a system of tunnels, similar to modern subways. Each spiral hole appears to serve the function of a pump, filling the tunnels with air and directing the water to a specific location. In this way, water flowed to ancient settlements from where it was most desired, from areas of abundance." End quote. It seems that scientists have been forced to reluctantly admit, due to the overwhelming evidence of the system's sophistication, that the original engineer's know-how and workmanship was of such high quality that not only does it rival modern water delivery systems, but even after several millennia, many of the puquios still function perfectly. Furthermore, to have initially built them, the builders required as yet undiscovered advanced equipment, such as air pumping technologies, mechanisms far out of the realms of any academically studied ancestor. They also required an intimate understanding of geology, many meters below their feet, and indeed, the understanding of how they were going to manipulate future movement of the groundwater below. Also, intriguingly, many parts of these tunnels successfully passed through tectonic faults, as if they had prior advanced knowledge of these also. We personally find this discovery of the puquio's past function as nothing short of miraculous, making them some of the strongest evidence for not only a highly advanced pre-Incan culture, but of a technologically developed ancient people with in-depth knowledge of geology, hydrology, and many other seemingly modern understandings, developed through the utilization of advanced, technologically accomplished study. They are, undoubtedly, highly compelling. Our moon. A strange thing, don't you think? Have you ever gazed upon a full moon and wondered how it got there? What strange forces could have possibly built it? There are many moons within our solar system, yet few are as strange as ours. No others are known to ring like a bell when struck. No others possess such luminosity as our moon. In the 1970s, Michael Vassin and Alexander Shcherbakov of what was then the Soviet Academy of Sciences created a thesis that the moon is actually the remnants of a very ancient spaceship created by, as yet, unknown civilization. The article was entitled, "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" and was published in Sputnik, the Soviet equivalent of Reader's Digest. The suggestion of a hollow moon first appeared in science fiction when H.G. Wells wrote about a hollow moon in his 1901 book, The First Men in the Moon. Michael Vassin and Alexander Shcherbakov's hypothesis is based on the fact that large lunar craters, generally assumed to be formed from massive meteor impacts, are generally too shallow for scars made upon an organic body, and can have flat or even convex bottoms. They propose that small meteors are making cup-shaped depressions in the rocky surface of the moon, while the larger meteors are drilling through a rocky upper layer, hitting an armored hull underneath. Does George Lucas know something we don't? It seems he couldn't resist adding just one crater. The authors referenced earlier speculations by astrophysicist Iosif Shklovsky, who suggested that the Martian moon Phobos was an artificial satellite and hollow. Interestingly, Phobos has been claimed to appear to be hollow by numerous astronomers, who have stated that it appears to have an opening on one side, making it, in a sense, similar in shape to an empty shell. Phobos' orbit is also a complete mystery. Many who have researched it claim that it should have crashed into the surface of Mars many moons ago. Between 1972 and 1977, seismometers installed on our moon by the Apollo missions recorded strange moonquakes. The moon was described to have been ringing like a bell during some of those quakes. The supportive evidence was then brought to popular attention in March 1970 in an article in Popular Science. When Apollo 12 deliberately crashed the ascent stage of its lunar module into the moon's surface, it was claimed that the moon rang like a bell for an hour, leading to arguments that it must be hollow. Several YouTubers, most notably Crow777, have supposedly recorded what is now known as lunar waves. If confirmed to exist, this may prove there is some form of functioning shield or scanning system being seen working on its surface. The fact that the moon is less dense than the Earth is also strong supportive evidence that it is indeed hollow.
In 1963, NASA launched its final manned mission during the Mercury program. On board the Atlas IX rocket known as Faith 7 was pilot astronaut Gordon Cooper. Project Mercury was the first human spaceflight program of the United States, running from 1958 through 1963. An early highlight of the space race, its goal was to put a man into Earth orbit and return him safely before the Russians. Cooper's cool-headed performance and piloting skills led to a basic rethinking of design philosophy for later space missions. While Cooper was stuffed into his tiny module for 32 hours during his orbit, he was tasked with a covert mission, the results of which have only recently come to light. He was given a cutting-edge piece of long-range magnetic detection technology, which was installed into a camera on board the Faith 7 spacecraft. His mission while on board was to capture images of the globe using this sensing technology to locate any possible secret nuclear development sites which could be considered a threat to America. During this procedure, Cooper became aware of an amazing capability which the camera possessed. Not only was it sensing possible hidden bases, but was also capturing anomalies deep in the oceans of Earth. Cooper deduced that these pings were actually all the shipwrecks which dot the ocean floors from throughout history, which had been spotted by the machine due to the considerable amount of metals within the wrecks. It seems having the courage to go into space and the intelligence and reflexes to survive the experience will endow you with some very special rewards in the most unlikely of forms. What this mission had given to Cooper was a treasure map of Earth, which no other person could possibly possess. Cooper dutifully recorded the geographical coordinates of the anomalies as was required of him, and when he returned to Earth, he also mapped them out on a sea chart, which became known as the treasure map from space by his lifelong friend and renowned treasure hunter, Roger Milkos. Throughout the rest of his life, Cooper would secretly compile substantial research regarding historical shipwrecks that corresponded with the locations on the space map. Cooper had planned to organize expeditions to find the treasures, but unfortunately, before he could finish his work, he died in 2004 of heart failure, passing his map and all accompanying research to Milkos on his deathbed. Now Milkos has set about finding these shipwrecked treasures in a new Discovery Channel series called Cooper's Treasure. He told the press, quote, "We want to bring to light the new stories of the shipwrecks that have yet to be discovered, tell the story and share it with the world, and share it with the host countries that are allowing us to do the research. What we are trying to do is to open a dialogue about the past with these host countries." End quote. I will keep you posted on any substantial finds they make.
One of the more obscure and personal favorite parts of mystery history is a small yet incredibly special unique figurine. Dated to the Stone Age, yet regardless of this extraordinary antiquity, this hollow figurine remaining unopened and unbroken for so long, interestingly rattled. After a delicate extraction procedure was undertaken, a metallic ball was found inside, a sphere which, due to the aforementioned age of said part, should simply not exist. Yet, after further research, we have discovered that this unique figure wasn't a singular anomaly as we first presumed, but was actually part of a collection of equally puzzling artifacts, some of equally unexplainable characteristics. We now know it was found amongst a collection by locals mining for gold in Sierra Leone. They are now known as the Anomaly figures. The statues are now attributed to a number of varying legends in Sierra Leone. Dating from 17,000 BC, some believe that angels who once lived in the heavens were, as a punishment for causing bad behavior, turned into humans and sent to Earth. A legend uncannily similar of certain fallen angel theories. The Anomaly figures are thusly thought to serve as representations of those entities, and were cast as a reminder of how they were banished from the heavens to Earth to live as humans. There are many strange hybrid interpretations within the collection. It includes animals such as monkeys, elephants, lizards, among other curiosities, some also depicted as giants. Quote, "While the figures are varied in shape and type, they are uniform in appearance, indicative of a common purpose. That purpose remains unknown, however. The figures were part of a Temne culture and tradition, but that, upon invasion by the Mendi, the tradition was lost and the civilization displaced to other locations. With so many questions and uncertainties, it is unknown if we will ever have definitive answers as to the dating, origins, and purpose of the Anomaly figures. For now, they remain a magnificent representation of the ancient civilizations that preceded those that now live in Sierra Leone," end quote, asserted curator Frederick Lamb. We find the entire collection, especially our previously covered Upart's metallic sphere, highly compelling. Kulap, a site that I have previously covered and also personally exposed the true scale of. Seemingly, or more than likely deliberately overlooked by academia, Kulap not only possesses an enormous ancient wall which surrounds the entrance to the site, which according to academia was seemingly placed upon the plateau of a naturally formed hill. However, after personally investigating this site myself, I found that not only had the wall constructed took unimaginable effort to build, but that the site beyond this impenetrable fortress had in fact been backfilled with earth, artificially creating the plateau that geologists, academics, and archaeologists alike long ignored and merely assumed was selected due to natural features, were in fact artificially created. However, it is clear for all to see that not only was the plateau painstakingly created to backfill to this fortress's wall, but the ingenious entrances were also the work of a people of tremendous intellect. Many of the passageways into the site allow many to enter the passages. However, as the invaders made their way along these elevations to penetrate the fortress itself, not only were they wide open to arrow fire from above from both sides, but also by design, the passageways slowly narrowed to a point where only one person at a time could actually enter the site. However, the purpose of this video is not the astonishing architectural features of the site itself, but possibly an exposure of the true creators of the site, a group of people with characteristics which may come as a shock to some and been long predicted by others. Found deep within a cave system within the site, a burial chamber at a depth of 800 meters, a burial chamber created at this location for the sole purpose of preserving these individuals' remains for as long as possible, and also to avoid the ravages tomb raiders that have been experienced over the eons by many of the other burial sites by many different cultures. There are many wooden idols that have seemingly been treated with lost technologies and have survived the climate astonishingly well. Yet, this set of mummies could expose once and for all who were responsible for this astonishing sight and indeed its miraculous characteristics. Thankfully, although much of the ancient tombs had been ravaged by robbers over the years, this absence of mummies didn't deter archaeologist Warren Church, who's worked for 19 years to save lost Pachutos and learn its secrets, seemingly successfully unraveling its innermost protected secrets, and possibly coming face to face with its original builders. They were known as the Chachapoya, or the Cloud People by the Incas, who by this stage had re-inhabited the ancient pre-Incan ruins which dot Peru, and due to the ingenious nature of the fortress, the tremendous efforts that went into building it, and the seemingly impenetrable nature of its design, the Cloud People seemingly survived all the way up until the Spanish invasion, only succumbing to the introduction of smallpox, which the Spanish seemingly brought with them. An intriguing characteristic of these enigmatic people is the fact that they left no written language, yet adorned their site with countless stone carvings of orchids, butterflies, and jaguars. According to Warren Church, for more than 500 years, the Chachapoya cut farm terraces and villages into these steep slopes. This burial chamber, found deep within the site, shows that not only did they display great respect for their dead, but that they were of European origin, white-skinned and blonde-haired, with Church apparently stating that the mummies are of the most beautiful past people he has ever witnessed. Were these mummies the remains of the original builders of this astonishing site? Or were they like the Incas, merely re-inhabitations, although how they got there, to these Peruvian hills and controllers of Kulap itself, remains a mystery. Yet white mummies of a seemingly European ancestry have been found throughout the globe. Does this suggest that the ruling force we so often postulate once existed? That many known as the Atlanteans shared their knowledge across the globe before catastrophe? Regardless of their ethnicity, we find such research by Church highly admirable, and such discoveries highly compelling.
We recently covered the astonishing and largely unexplained ancient temple known as Kailash, which quietly sits within India, a temple cut out from a solid rock with such precision, such vision and accuracy, it is a feat we would struggle to recreate even to this day, clearly demonstrating an ancient high technology that has undoubtedly been lost over the millennia. Could this temple actually be evidence left by a far older group of people? A remnant left by a far more advanced civilization than that which academia will allow us to publicly discuss within many modern fields of study. Within the Barabar and Nagarjuni hills of the Jehanabad district of India sits another series of rock-cut features. 6 crudely cut caves, carved into large stones, which litter the surrounding hillsides. They could be seen as crude and possibly more modern attempts to recreate what can be found on the top of the hill. Known as the Lomas Rishi Cave, cut into an enormous rock, it is the only one out of the many within the area which demonstrates a level of refinement which literally boggles the mind. The only cave in the area that has a delicately cut entrance, but also an interior which has seemingly been protected from the elements, perfectly preserved in its original state, demonstrating a state of rock cutting which has left the rock polished to a mirror-smooth finish. Evidence reinforcing the postulation that this cave, and additionally Kailash Temple, are remnants left by a far older and once far more advanced culture than officially accepted. The hut-style facade at the entrance to the cave is officially accepted as the earliest example of the ogee-shaped Chaitya arch or Chandrashala that was to be an important feature of Indian rock-cut architecture and sculptural decoration for centuries during its post-cataclysmic development. The example here is largely accepted as the specific influence for later examples, of which there are many at later Buddhist sites, such as Ajanta Caves and Kala Caves in Maharashtra. How, or indeed who, cut the Lomas Rishi Cave? How did they achieve such an amazing finish to the stonework? Were these same people responsible for the construction of the Kailash Temple? Also another structure exquisitely cut out of a giant solid stone. Although modern academically accepted views state that they were created during the reign of the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, a Buddhist ruler from the 3rd century BC, who ruled over almost the entire country of India, caves known as Satgava were carved into the hills for the use of the monks, Lomas Rishi Cave being said to have been one of them. Yet due to its exquisite quality, it's hard to see just how they can claim this.
An astonishing collection of ancient evidential items and rediscovered historical factors have allowed the argument for an once lost history to have existed, all but now a foregone conclusion. A civilization at which some point in our distant past was lost, yet a once highly advanced worldwide culture. The proof that these ruins were all built by the same people or by those who were in contact with each other worldwide is now, we feel, overwhelming. Yet their technological capabilities were just as equally astonishing. Cut from nearly every type of strata, ruins with such precision, not only do they seemingly appear to have been cut with laser technologies, but the Barbara Caves is undoubtedly the jewel in the crown. When previously looked at by us, we were astonished by the finish of the cave's walls, both in surface and angle, which, thankfully, due to the structure's sheltered nature, have survived for at least 2,300 years in incredible condition. Even more astounding, however, is that this precision has recently been confirmed using modern sonar-like technology, allowing for an incredibly detailed map of each cave to be created, each cave's image made from millions of points of reference, revealing for the first time in well over 2,000 years just how incredible the creators of these cave systems were, a feat many now believe we could not achieve ourselves. Perfect 180 curvatures on the roofs, perfect 90-degree angles on the doorways, perfectly flat floors, and perfectly vertical walls. The creation of the caves was simply perfect. We feel it is undeniable that whoever created these caves had in their possession incredibly advanced stone-cutting technologies. Yet, how this was done and with what are questions which we find hugely intriguing.
Mustang, formerly the Kingdom of Lo, northern Nepal. A group of man-made structures can be found in this part of the Himalayan mountains, which defy modern understanding. Not only does this place defy understanding, but the ancient builders appear to have somehow defied gravity. At the end of the 18th century, the Kingdom of Lo was annexed by Nepal. Mustang was a restricted demilitarized area until 1992, which makes it one of the most preserved regions in the world. Reports from the area spoke of extremely ancient human dwellings chiseled into a sheer cliff face within a gorge which dwarfs the Grand Canyon. The caves are many thousands of years old. They are dug into a vertical mountain face, at least 150 feet in the air, with no way of accessing them from the ground or above. How ancient people built these caves, or indeed why, remains a mystery. Around 10,000 man-made caves dot the gorge, as if an entire colony of people lived perched on a mountainside. They appear to have been built to hide from something, rather than a fortification. Adventure photographer Corey Richards, climber Pete Athons, archaeologist Mark Aldendefier and a team of explorers visited the caves to try to unearth their hidden relics. They found extremely valuable and semi-ancient Buddhist artifacts, along with the Buddhist relics. Ancient, semi-mummified, human remains were discovered within a few of the caves. These bodies have been dated at more than 3,000 years old, predating Buddhism by some time. It would appear that how ancient they were precisely remains a guarded secret. Climbing into the sky caves was no easy feat. The rock was unstable and posed a real danger to the team of explorers. In fact, climbing into the caves was so dangerous, Mr. Richards lost his footing, fell and broke his back. On another assignment to Mustang, the following year, videographer Lincoln Elst was hit by a falling rock, fracturing his skull. In some of the caves, skeletons dating from the 3rd to the 8th centuries, which had cut marks on the bones that may have been inflicted during the practice of sky burial, were discovered. This is where the body's flesh is left to be eaten by vultures. Sky burial is still practiced in many remote regions in the Himalayas to this day. However, some believe these cave systems even predate these remains, with some evidence to support such suspicions. The erosion found on the cave systems shows signs of many millennia of light rainfall. Some have had time to virtually erode away. Who do you think built the Mustang Sky Caves? Why do you think they built them, and how? These magical caves show such abnormality to modern understanding, nearly nothing of their existence can be explained.
A two-headed dog with 6 legs.
More than 2 years ago, a team of explorers led by scientist Vladimir Melikov were on an expedition within the Russian caves on Mount Bolshoi when they made a miraculous discovery. Reports from Russian newspapers at the time indicated that a briefcase and 2 alien-like skulls were discovered in the cave systems of the Caucasus region. What is amazing about the briefcase is the insignia which can be found upon its front. It is the emblem of the NNRB, once the Nazis' most secretive institutions. Founded by Heinrich Himmler in 1935, their mission was to find evidence that the Aryan race had once ruled the entire world. But they also branched into occultism, paranormal research, pseudoscience, and the study of UFOs and weapons development, all due to Himmler's obsession with such things. The strange appearance of the skulls has led to speculation that the Nazis were in contact with aliens. Mr. Melikov was reported as saying the creature is unlike anything known to man. He said among the most mysterious features of the skulls is the absence of a cranial vault or jaws. The eye sockets are also unusually large. He added, even when compared with the skull of a bear, it is hard to think that you do not have in your hands the remains of an alien creature. Paleontologists in Moscow were shown pictures of the skulls. They reportedly dismissed the skulls, saying they could have been exposed to sand for long periods of time, which could have altered their shape. Russian newspaper reports have also recorded other German discoveries in the area, including last summer when Elbrus hunters found a second suitcase with the NNRB logo. It is thought to have belonged to the huntsman of the German division Edelweiss, and was found along with a ring showing a soldier in a mountain cap and a Nazi uniform. The Edelweiss was an emblem of the German mountain troops during World War II. Also in 2014, reports said locals in the same area found the burial site of German infantry, believed to have been killed in an avalanche years earlier. What do you think about the finds? Are these skulls proof that the Nazis knew of the existence of aliens? Or maybe that they were even in contact with such entities? The skulls and briefcase are now said to be stored at an archaeological complex in Belovod, a site which stores many historical artifacts. Further studies are desperately needed before they vanish from public view.
Dr. Hermann Oberth, who pioneered rocket design during World War II, once cryptically stated, quote, "We cannot take the credit for our record advancement in certain scientific fields. We have been helped." When asked by whom, he replied, "The people of other worlds." Additionally, according to Above Top Secret by Timothy Good and William Morrow, Oberth's fellow space pioneer, Wernher von Braun, echoed this mysterious reference, even including the existence of extraterrestrials, when he stated in 1959, quote, "We find ourselves faced by powers which are far stronger than hitherto assumed, and whose base is at present unknown to us. More I cannot say at present. We are now engaged in entering into closer contact with those powers, and within 6 or 9 months' time, it may be possible to speak with more precision on the matter." End quote. Just who were the people of other worlds that Dr. Oberth spoke of, or indeed these entities that von Braun referred to? With only Oberth's quotations, one could presume a possible reverse engineering of alien craft. However, with von Braun's more detailed expose, this possibility seems to be excluded in favor of pertained actual assistance and contact with advanced beings. Many people also believe that an encounter with these beings, along with Third Reich craft built with their technology, was once encountered in an operation known as Operation High Jump. According to certain independent researchers, Richard E. Byrd, admiral of this operation, possibly encountered a hostile, formidable opponent, who he has claimed to have described as fighters that were able to fly from one pole to another with incredible speed. In reality, however, whatever Byrd's expedition experienced may never be fully publicly disclosed, as all reports, including Byrd's personal log entries, remain mysteriously classified. But the connections between these curious quotations, and indeed the rumored encounters by this classified operation, are certainly intriguing. Furthermore, Operation High Jump was originally organized by Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal. Interestingly, in 1949, Forrestal was sent to recover from a supposed nervous breakdown at Bethesda Naval Hospital. However, after allegedly ranting to staff about the Antarctic, UFOs, and an underground Nazi city, Forrestal was denied all visitors. Shortly after, he mysteriously died in a fall from his hospital room window. What did Forrestal know? Were his perceived delusional rants based upon reality? According to the legend of the German Vril Society, a secret remote viewing was held in 1919 at an old hunting lodge near Berchtesgaden. During this event, Maria Arsic, a self-proclaimed medium, presented her supposed telepathic messages, which she claimed to have received from an extraterrestrial civilization existing in the constellation of Taurus. It is reported that these messages contained instructions for building a circular flight machine. It is interesting to note that German Oriental scholars and occultists alike regarded such mystic teachings with complete seriousness, with well-documented, well-funded, diligent efforts put forth to discover and such individually proclaimed powers and their messages therein into viable technological realities. What happened in the Antarctic? Who were these people from other worlds that von Braun and Oberth spoke of? Did the Third Reich make contact with an alien or possible highly advanced, once ancient civilization, allowing them to engineer mystifying technologies? We find such claims, rumors, and fragments of evidence to support such possible realities highly compelling. we are frequently asked to cover the intriguing ancient documents of ancient Sumeria, and for good reason. For although the Sumerian king list is officially classified as an accurate and important chronographic document from ancient Mesopotamia, the lifespans of many of the oldest of its rulers are stated as having lived for upwards of 30,000 years. Furthermore, there is a noticeable steady decline in the duration of these rulers' lives. This gradual decline, when seen in its complete translated form, if of course it is indeed an accurate documentation of history, displays a clear example of devolution over many thousands of years. It lists a long succession of cities in Sumer and the surrounding regions. The first fragment of the text, which is largely believed to date back at least 4,000 years, was found in the early 1900s by Hermann Hilbrecht at the site of ancient Nippur, with its discovery subsequently published in 1906. Since Hilbrecht's discovery, at least 18 other fragments of the list have been found, most of them dating from the second half of the Isin dynasty. Yet this controversial claim of past rulers' ages is a reoccurring theme with many of these fragments, reiterating these incredibly long lifespans. Furthermore, intriguingly, the Epic of Gilgamesh, perhaps the most famous, still surviving contribution to world history dating back to Mesopotamia, is depicted as nothing short of a giant. Often depicted, carrying what is perceived as his pet lion, the cat, however, appears far from tame, attempting to take a chunk from his arm, but due to Gilgamesh's relative size to his furry friend, merely appears as nothing more than a kitten when in his embrace. Could these claims of a 20,000-year lifespan be connected to the additional claim of many of the figures from this era's incredible sizes? Could heavy research and a subsequent in-depth exposé regarding the reality surrounding the claims of the Mesopotamian civilization finally confirm the past existence of not only giants, but human beings whom, after their derivation from divinity, initially had lifespans stretching into 30,000 years? For as the list states, and I quote, "After the kingship descended from heaven, they were situated within Eridung in Alulim. It is named after Eridung, who became king. He ruled for 28,800 years, with Alajar subsequently ruling for 36,000 years after him. Two kings who ruled for 64,800 years." End quote. As one would predict, such claims are simply dismissed by academics the world over. This is, of course, due to the tales of the king's immense longevity, and due to their own paradigms, one they are often funded to regurgitate would have simply been impossibility. Additionally, along with this staunch denial to even consider such possibilities within mainstream study, this same fate befalls the countless, gigantic, unexplained megaliths found the world over. This is a clear example of how valuable academia perceives their illusionary, oracle-esque all-knowing regarding a complete history of human civilization. For if one was to consider such past individuals, having been responsible for the Great Pyramids, for example, one could finally explain how, and indeed who, accomplished such ancient feats. But I digress. Could Mesopotamia be the key to unlocking many secrets hidden or lost within human history? We find such possibilities as highly compelling. The Nimrod Castle, which translates as Castle of the Large Cliff, is an astonishing ancient fortress. And although this awe-inspiring site has predictably been dated to the medieval era, we feel that due to the many anomalous megalithic blocks within its construction, it is far older than this, and undoubtedly a remnant left by a highly advanced civilization, now unfortunately lost to history. This due to academia's funded and often deliberate ignorance. Many of the oldest blocks present within the structure, for example, are all upwards of 10 tons, with some of the heaviest recognized as being over 40 tons in weight. How modern curators and academics alike can attest to these ruins having been created by our tremendously less capable medieval ancestors, we feel, is preposterous. According to those in the so-called know, the fortress was created from scratch during the Ayyubid dynasty, placed within the 12th and 13th centuries. The dynasty undoubtedly existed, this we do not deny. We also do not disagree with the posit that the dynasty ruled large parts of the Middle East during these centuries. However, we suspect that, just like the many other unexplainable ancient advanced ruins found throughout the world, these more recent ruling ancestors, and indeed the large array of ancient artifacts which they left, creating an archaeological legacy, has been used to conveniently date and explain this miraculous structure away, avoiding the controversial truth which is clear for all to see. The fortress is situated on the southern slopes of Mount Hermon, upon a ridge that rises over 2,600 feet above sea level, overlooking the Golan Heights. We feel that due to its strategical location, much of the structure was rebuilt upon. This task completed with the purpose of guarding a major access route. We believe that upon the leader of this dynasty, Al-Aziz Uthman, discovering the enormous, impenetrable polygonal masonry still in existence within the walls of the site, that were left by a people who, at some point within antiquity, mysteriously vanished. This leader made the logical decision to build upon the impressive remnants, with these walls being reused, utilized for a more modern fortress. This second phase, predictably made with far smaller blocks, and thus can be easily explained as medieval architecture. A fortress could have indeed been its original purpose, this due to its strategically placed location. Indeed, other ancient, advanced, seemingly impenetrable fortresses can be found in other places within the world, such as Sacsayhuaman, although its true grandeur or its initial advanced builder's intention for the structure may take tremendous, meticulous alternative research to eventually unravel. Furthermore, intriguingly, the enigmatic yet highly recognizable shape of this initial stonework is also present at another site, possibly a number of other sites, although in particular within Jerash, a site currently claimed as Roman. Who built the fortress of Nimrod? How can academia claim that this site was built by the Ayyubid dynasty, while another ruin, unquestionably constructed with the same form of megalithic blocks, seemingly dating for the same era, be that of the Romans? We feel that these two sites, each containing the same building features, yet claimed as completely different civilizations' work, both placed within our more recent history, yet in vastly different centuries, is clear evidence of academic fallacy, evidence of their explanative contradictions when it comes to the many currently controversial ancient ruins of Earth. Nimrod Fortress is yet another jewel in the crown of a civilization currently lost to history. It is undoubtedly highly compelling. Tucked away in the bowels of the Israel Museum within Jerusalem is a small, inconspicuous artifact that, if the claims of its origins, believed by many independent researchers and scholars alike, be true, it would support the existence of a remarkable treasure, which countless individuals over the millennia have become convinced of its existence. Yet their efforts to discover this treasure were all to no avail. Yet a small ivory pomegranate, about the size of an adult's thumb, with some rather intriguing inscriptions still readable upon it, could possibly prove those who believe in its existence right all along. The object's Paleo-Hebrew inscription contains the divine name of Yahweh, which was used by the ancient Israelites. If authentic, then this small ivory pomegranate may be a still existing head of a scepter of King Solomon, which could have only been found within a treasure and possible tomb, which many claim still remains beneath Solomon's temple itself. What makes this treasure so incredibly intriguing, if indeed it existed, along with its gold and silver relics and the aforementioned scepters and canes, was that with this collection has long been claimed to have been the storage place for the Ark of the Covenant, whose location is also continually debated by many different fields of interest. The scepter's head's authenticity has, predictably, been dismissed by some and argued as real by others. Yet having first came to the attention of the public over 30 years ago, its discovery and possible incredible origins have received a suspiciously low level of media attention. Paleographer André Lemaire initially stumbled across the ivory pomegranate in 1979 for sale in an antiquity shop in Jerusalem. Lemaire published a note on the object in the French scholarly journal Revue Biblique in 1981. And by his 1984 issue of BAR, the inscribed ivory pomegranate was really beginning to be looked at seriously. For 15 years, the inscribed ivory pomegranate could be seen at the Israel Museum, displayed in a special room with a direct beam of light on it. In 2005, however, a committee comprised of Israel Antiquities Authority and Israel Museum scholars published a report in the Israel Exploration Journal concluding that the inscription was a forgery. However, this claim by the individuals who forensically examined the object originally were later redacted, stating they could not confirm its authenticity, yet were reluctant to state it as authentic. Yet regardless, it is now curiously protected and not on display. Is this object really a surviving relic from the treasures of the Temple of Solomon? Does this support the possibility that other treasures, specifically the Ark of the Covenant, could really exist? We find such possibility highly compelling. On the 25th of January 2011, the streets of Cairo were being ravaged by a rioting population, demanding the end of President Hosni Mubarak's 30-year regime. While the world was distracted by the dramatic scenes of chaos upon the streets above, deep within the ancient dusty tunnels, a team of archaeologists, led by Suzanne Bickel of the University of Basel in Switzerland, was quietly making one of the most significant discoveries of the past century. They had initially found the top of a large round stone at the eastern end of the Valley of the Kings. The archaeologists suspected that it was just the top of an abandoned shaft, but before they could investigate, due to Egypt's political process regarding finds within the valley, they had to cover the stone rim with their own locked iron door, inform the Egyptian authorities, and apply for an official permit to excavate. A year later, after gaining approval to excavate, Bickel returned with a team of 24 people, including Field Director Elena Paula Goth of the University of Basel, Egyptian Inspector Ali Rita, and local workmen. Each took turns lying on the ground, head pressed against the shaft wall, one arm through a small hole next to the capstone, snapping photographs. They left little doubt that it was indeed an ancient tomb. On top of the debris rested a dusty black coffin carved from sycamore wood and decorated with large yellow hieroglyphs on its sides and top. Bickel has stated that she has never seen an Egyptian coffin in such a good condition before. The dating of fragments of pottery made from Nile silt and pieces of plaster, commonly used to seal tomb entrances in ancient times, together with the age of the other nearby sites, have indicated that the tomb could be more than 3,000 years old. The hieroglyphs describe the tomb's occupant as being named Nehemi's Bastet. Egyptologists currently believe she was a lady of the upper class and of Amun. People have been claiming there was nothing new left to find in the Valley of the Kings for almost as long as they have been digging there. The Venetian antiquarian Giovanni Belzoni believed he had emptied the last of the valley's tombs during his 1817 expedition, while Theodore Davis, who excavated there a century later, came to a similar conclusion right before Tutankhamun's burial chamber was found. Fortunately, there is a growing number of people who are beginning to suspect that there is a wealth of discoveries still left to be made in the Valley of the Kings, the Nile Delta, and Egyptian as a whole. And thanks to discoveries such as these, interest in these existing mysteries grows by the day. It is interesting to see that in this period, even a wealthy girl was buried with quite simple things, Bickle says, comparing Nahim's Bastet's coffin and stele with the elaborate pottery, furniture, and food found in earlier tombs. Her wooden coffin was certainly quite expensive, she says, but nonetheless, it lacked the elaborate inner coffins found in similar burials. Is this the burial chamber of an extremely ancient queen? After reinforcing the coffin and securing the mummy, Bickle's team have transported across the Nile to Luxor, where a full investigation is currently being undertaken into the true identity of the mystery female. With substantial insight into the controversial finds within ancient Egypt, we personally suspect that often the tombs, which appear the most crudely designed, containing wooden sarcophagus, are generally found to be the most ancient. Furthermore, their hieroglyphic writings were often far more exquisite in nature. Could this be the discovery of an original burial, and the crude hieroglyphic claim of the occupant's identity a fake, hiding the delta's true antiquity? A secret many fringe scientists have begun to believe is being protected by Egyptian antiquities. Many have come to suspect the Egyptians merely copied the original builders of the pyramids, after taking occupation of their structures many years later. Supportive evidence for these claims comes in many forms. Erosion upon the pyramids, and especially the Sphinx, including over 100 underground chambers we are currently researching, discovered under Giza in 1995 by a team led by Kent Weeks, which also show strong evidence of several flash flooding events involving seawater throughout their long existence. The lack of any written detail pertaining to the construction of either monument in any hieroglyphs found in ancient Egypt, and so on. We find it incredibly intriguing that more was not made public regarding this amazing find, which leads us to suspect it may be a highly important, albeit highly controversial discovery. We will continue to do research on Nahim's Bastet, and will endeavor to keep you all informed regarding any notable findings. There have recently been some astonishing, academically contradictory discoveries unearthed throughout Europe. Archaeologists have been discovering a network of underground tunnels, apparently somehow cut throughout the Stone Age, which cover the territories of Spain, Turkey, and most of the European continent. Their approximate age, according to funded archaeologists, is no less than 12,000 years. Yet how people living within the Stone Age, people without any form of metal tools or chisels, managed to cut thousands of miles of tunnel systems is clearly a considerably contradictory mystery. Thousands of underground tunnels stretching from Scotland to Turkey that have, predictably, placed the many submissive, order-taking funded scientists throughout the academic world at a dead end to explain. However, if one presumes, as the evidence we share here on our channel often suggests, that a past, now lost, highly advanced civilization once flourished here on our Earth, their creation is less of a challenge to explain. Yet the purpose for their existence will remain an enigma. Were they created by a group attempting to hide from something? Or possibly, they were ancient smuggling tunnels left by members of this lost civilization, once used to smuggle items from ancient settlement to settlement found throughout Europe. German archaeologist Dr. Heinrich Kusch, in his book Secrets of the Underground Doors to the Ancient World, states that the tunnels were dug beneath hundreds of Neolithic settlements all across Europe, and the fact that so many tunnels have survived indicates that the original network was much larger than that which still survives. Quote, "In Bavaria alone, we discovered 700 meters of these underground tunnels. In the Austrian Styria, we found 350, and throughout Europe there were thousands of such tunnels, from the north of Scotland stretching to the Mediterranean itself." End quote. The fact that these tunnels have been identified as having been cut at least 12,000 years ago, should indicate to all those still with a capacity of critical thought that they are undoubtedly far older than this, as to state that they were somehow cut by people with literally no tools to their disposal, to us seems laughable. The tunnels are all relatively narrow, being about 70 centimeters in width, just enough for an adult man to travel through. In some places, there are small rooms, storage chambers, and seats, clearly indicating that these cave systems were used by a number of people at a time. How did our ancient ancestors create such an awe-inspiring network of tunnels without the utilization of some form of tunneling equipment, lighting, and indeed smelted metal tools? It is not surprising to us, or anyone who has paid attention to the limited tale of events put forward by academia, that these tunnels remain a perplexing ancient artifact for them to explain. Yet we feel they are clear evidence of a past civilization, having crudely cut these tunnels, possibly for some nefarious reason we are yet to unravel. They are undoubtedly highly compelling. Edinburgh, Scotland, a very ancient land with a castle built upon an extinct volcano. Many mysterious things lay and possibly live within Scotland, the most famous of which undoubtedly the extremely elusive Loch Ness Monster. However, recent surveys would suggest that among the most popular of attractions are in fact its vast collection of, to the well-trained eye, extremely ancient coves and cave systems. Hand-cut, these caverns will demonstrate the immense skill, determination, and of course ingenuity of our distant ancestors, revealing to all those who are lucky enough to visit them just what these ancient people were capable of. And hidden behind a modest door on Drum Street in Gilmerton is quite possibly the most incredible network of them all: underground passageways, large, perfectly carved chambers, benches, tables, and even a small chapel, all painstakingly hewn from solid stone by hand. And thankfully, due to their popular attraction with tourists, often the explorers amongst us, many open-minded individuals, have often been left with a sense of discomposure regarding the officially upheld explanation for their origins. As such, and rather predictably, many alternative theories, often involving a far more ancient origin for the cove and its purpose, now abound. The mass regurgitated view regarding the construction would suggest that a blacksmith by the name of George Patterson, who actually resided within the cove within the 18th century, somehow created them alone by hand and within a mere 5-year period, with even George himself claiming to have cut this extensive, elaborate, and unquestionably enigmatic underground structure using simple hand tools. Since the claims 3 centuries ago, however, numerous holes have been seemingly discovered within this popularly upheld sequence of events, fueling the already prevalent suspicions within skeptic parties, maybe in an attempt to hide its true antiquity, as we experience so often during our research. On Wednesday, the 15th of August, 1906, a front-page column by a writer known as F.R. Coles for The Scotsman dug into George Patterson's version of events, commonly referred to as the tradition. Coles found it to have been nothing but a fictional fallacy, possibly created by George himself in an attempt to profit from deception. It seems Patterson not only accomplished the seemingly impossible, excavating hundreds of tons of stone, but also it seems he successfully went unnoticed by the entire surrounding population during this entire procedure. Just who could have built Gilmerton Cove? When was it built? Why did they build it? With modern radar scans of the surrounding area indicating that even more systems lay close by, still undiscovered, possibly isolated by ancient cave-ins, you have to wonder, could the Gilmerton Cove be far older and originally far grander and extensively larger than anyone today could have ever possibly imagined? Will we ever solve the mystery of Gilmerton Cove? It seems only time will tell.
Phoenix Hill, Xianbei, China. In 1994, an extremely mysterious discovery would be made. Considered by the Chinese as the 9th ancient wonder of the world, A series of 24 ancient, artificial caves were discovered. Specialists have been quietly astounded by them. And the more we learn, the more of a spectacular and mysterious achievement they are seen to be. The first thing that struck explorers was their size. Each cave has a minimum floor space of 1,000 square feet, an unimaginable undertaking at the time they were thought to have been constructed. Officially dated prior to the dynasties of China, which began 3,000 years ago, meaning they are very, very old. The walls of the caves are scarred with strange uniform tool marks. The weird thing about the markings is that they are all set on a 60-degree angle. Every single chisel mark within the cave system without exception is on an exact 60-degree cutting angle. This has led many to suspect that the caves must have somehow been dug using advanced machinery. However, because this feature is unique within our current knowledge of ancient structures, the angle of cutting could indeed have been made by hand, with the purpose of decoration, but this would have made the job of cutting them out even more laborious. Additionally, once the caves had been assessed and explored, a remarkable thing was realized. Although the caves were the result of excavating thousands and thousands of tons of rock, this rock seems to have vanished from existence. There is no trace of a spoil pile anywhere to be seen. It is as if the caves have always been there. No traces of their construction has ever been found anywhere. No cave writings, drawings, tools, or human remains, and nothing within historical records. The cave's construction simply doesn't make sense, and any evidence for their construction doesn't exist. Add to this the fact that the cave systems predate Chinese civilization by some time and show evidence of being cut out by machine. And the Longyu caves undoubtedly become a curiosity to scientific explanation and historical understanding, to say the least. These remarkable caves are a very strong and solid piece of evidence to suggest that advanced cultures have already been and gone on this planet, or that visitors of extraterrestrial origin visited the planet prior to human development. As far as I am aware, these are the only two possible scenarios for the builders of such a construction. The cave systems are well over 3,000 years old and still intact. Whoever was capable of constructing them was also capable of disposing of the huge mountains of rock that would have been excavated without leaving any evidence of how they did this, or indeed built the caves anywhere. The caves are known as one of the largest underground complexes ever discovered. The fact that more is not heard about this wonderful place is testament to their extraordinary existence, meaning no one within the scientific community can or want to try to explain them. Also, which I found highly interesting, when they were discovered they were completely filled with water. Whether this was once salt water has not been disclosed, but I have personal suspicions as to how this water came to rest within these underground caverns. No fish were found within the caves, which many found odd. However, if you suspected that the waters be residual leftovers from a great flood, water from the great seas of Earth, then over time, salt levels would plummet and fish accustomed to sea water would have died. Who do you think built the Longyu caves? The cave's existence hints towards a hidden history here on our planet, a history that we must unravel if we are ever to fully understand ourselves and our home.
Many ancient sites found scattered all over the planet share an enigmatic feature. A pattern of scarring left upon their megalithic blocks and often upon their walls, once left by a technology built by an as yet not understood civilization. We've previously covered the perplexing technique often used by ancient wall builds, found all around the world in the form of mysterious metal clamps, used to seat huge stone blocks as they settled over the following years. These clamps, dated to similar times within antiquity and varying in style from continent to continent, somehow turned up all over the world at around the same time, strongly suggesting some form of intercontinental travel and thus sharing of technologies. Furthermore, and perhaps more intriguing, are the links that we, here on the channel, along with others in alternative research, and even funded institutes from nations around the world, have begun to notice and hopefully triangulate a signature left by this once highly advanced group of individuals. The most noticeable of these sites, and the one which initially started us upon this journey, was Longyu Cave in China. A cave system hewn from solid bedrock, leaving no waste piles of stone anywhere, marking the stone with a telltale scar pattern. These parallel marks are not just found at Longyu. Similar yet not identical marks have also been found elsewhere on Earth. A slight variation in style is what one would expect with shared knowledge. As with the metal clamps, a slight variation can be found from continent to continent. These similar marks can also be found at the ancient quarry of Yangshan, China, and Petra in Jordan, both argued for years to actually be the workmanship of a civilization far older than any noted within modern academia. These marks were then discovered to be upon the ceiling of Cave 1 at the ancient site of Mamallapuram within India, another site which in places shows levels of erosion far in excess of that which should be seen at a site dated within known history. Yet perhaps the most impressive of these marks, and most probably the ones made by the conceptual machine of origin, are the scars witnessed and now subsequently cataloged at Baalbek. These are far too large for any hand tool, made into solid granite with such precision. These also display circular motions, as if left by a modern-day tunnel boring machine. This evidence, undoubtedly unnoticed upon many more ancient sites, is clearly compelling evidence to support our channel's hypothesis that a mysterious history once occurred here on our planet, and will hopefully shed some light on the amazing people responsible for this phase of our past. Divers from oil companies located within the North Sea have been discovering the remains of a drowned ancient city, which once spanned from the UK all the way to Denmark. An ancient city so massive its suspected population has been estimated well into the tens of thousands. A team of climatologists, archaeologists, and geophysicists have now successfully mapped the area, which has revealed just how vast and expansive this once lost land once was. Many specialists are now claiming this was once the real heartland of Europe. This enormous civilization is now believed to have dated back to some 8,000 years ago, and that the landmass was submerged over a period of several thousand years, a submersion which began some 20,000 years prior. Dr. Richard Bates of the Department of Earth Sciences at St. Andrews, who organized the Drowned Landscapes exhibit covering the finds within the UK, says the data reveals the human story behind Doggerland, a now submerged city of the North Sea that was once larger than many modern European countries. Could these discoveries reveal Doggerland as the real lost city of Atlantis? Several hypotheses have placed the sunken island of Atlantis within modern northern Europe. Most noted among such researchers is Olaus Rudbeck, who suspected that Doggerland, as well as a Viking Bergen Island, which is thought to have been flooded by a mega tsunami following the Storegga slide in 6100 BC, is the real location of Atlantis, a proposition he put forward all the way back in the 1600s. Some have proposed the Celtic Shelf as a possible location, and that there is certainly links to Ireland. Many places have been put forward for the possible location of the sunken city throughout the years, yet none have revealed ruins worthy of such claims, many of these areas being too small to have housed such an enormous city. Doggerland, however, fits the bill. Not only could it turn out to be the largest ancient civilization found on Earth, but it also rests in a possible location based on historical research for the city of Atlantis. It was submerged at one point in its history, and it is revealing astonishing ruins of a once great and presently unknown civilization. Dr. Bates, a geophysicist, said Doggerland was the real heartland of Europe until sea levels rose to give us the UK coastline of today. We have speculated for years on the lost land's existence, from bones dredged by fishermen all over the North Sea, but it's only since working with oil companies in the last few years that we've been able to recreate what this lost land looked like. When the data was first being processed, I thought it unlikely to give us any useful information. However, as more area was covered, it revealed a vast and complex landscape. We have now been able to model its flora and fauna, build up a picture of the ancient people that lived there, and begin to understand some of the dramatic events that subsequently changed the land, including the sea rising and a devastating tsunami. The research project is a collaboration between St. Andrews and the universities of Aberdeen, Birmingham, Dundee, and Wales Trinity St. David. I will keep you posted on their future discoveries. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Lake Titicaca. This familiar named lake is located deep within the Andes, now sliced in two by the borders of Bolivia and Peru. It is not only the largest lake in South America, but it is also undoubtedly the most important historically that can be found anywhere on Earth. Many tales have surfaced over the years involving submerged citadels, mountains of gold relics, and vast ancient ruins scattered across the lakebed. Stories of amateur archaeologists becoming very wealthy from astonishing yet not publicly disclosed discoveries which lay beneath the waves. "We found 2,000 objects and fragments," declared Christophe Delarare, a Belgian archaeologist at a ceremony in La Paz. According to Christophe, divers from his team found the objects more than 7 meters underwater off the coast of the island of the Sun. These included 31 large golden relics. Archaeologists think these discoveries are just the beginning of something far greater, and for good reason. As time goes on, claims made a long time ago begin to appear more and more likely. According to Colonel John Blashford Snells, a notorious explorer, his extensive explorations of the lake, the surrounding ancient culture, and his resulting research, the ancient city of Tiwanaku, very near the lake shores, copied their original building knowledge from the scientists of the mysterious and legendary lost city of Atlantis. Interestingly, ancient Incan legend also corroborates his conclusions, stating that the mythical founders of their amazing empire did indeed once emerge from the lake's waters. The lake was considered the center of the cosmos by the Incan people, and they also somehow knew its shape, something we have only been able to achieve from a very high altitude. Ancient Inca legends tell that after a great flood, the creator god Viracocha emerged from Lake Titicaca. It's stated that he created, though this more than likely means they believe he restored the sun, moon, and stars. Viracocha was fair-skinned and long-bearded. He brought a great culture to the ancient peoples of South America. The 16th century Spanish chronicler Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa recorded in his Historia de los Incas a tale about Manco Capac, the first Inca. According to Inca mythology, the Inca are the direct descendants of a mythical first Inca named Manco Capac, who emerged from one of the 3 openings in the mountain Tambotoco, located 33 kilometers to the south of Cusco, Peru. Manco Capac is said to have created the Incan civilization through Viracocha. Even though his figure is mentioned in several chronicles, his actual existence remains unclear. Could this original and possibly vast ancient culture still be resting upon the bottom of Lake Titicaca? Did something catastrophic occur in our very distant past which filled this lake, once a large fertile valley, filled with what we have all become familiar as the lost city of Atlantis? The University of Seville, working in collaboration with the Andalusian Institute of Historical Heritage, has conducted an intensive LiDAR survey in a historically compelling area between the Spanish coastal towns of Camposoto and Sancti Petri. Their goal was to discover the remnants of a long-written-of temple, one dedicated to ancient deities. However, what they discovered instead was an incredibly ancient, once enormous mass dwelling, complex yet intelligently laid out, as if almost akin to modern-day standards of care in regard to sanitation management, food production, and quality of dwelling for its massive population's well-being. A mega-metropolis that, predictably, the academics responsible for its discovery have not only attempted to downplay the find, but also tried to claim it as merely proof of their original temple assertion. Clearly, they are merely backing the tale of events put forth by whomever funded said expedition. From the researchers themselves, quote, "The survey area consisted of submerged landscape, seemingly dominated by a series of ancient marshes. Something we feel was most probably intelligently managed farmlands prior to the Great Deluge, which eventually drowned this entire mega-metropolis. Yet I digress." They continued, "The study revealed a new ancient coastal landscape, with the presence of moorings, an inland port, and several large monumental buildings." End quote. By combining data from previous anomalous discoveries, the team created a cross-section of findings, and by a process of elimination, they pinpointed an area in which to scan. Yet, interestingly, after said discoveries of the structures, they quickly and simply delimited the entire area without any further field study or investigation whatsoever. Could this rapid delimitation of the area in regards to the LiDAR scanning possibly be in an attempt to obscure the true enormity of this pre-flood ruin? During their focused investigation, they found rectangular structures, some 300 by 150 meters in size. However, these discoveries contradicted their own strictly followed academic accounts of this supposedly legendary temple's whereabouts. This discovery being the mission's objective all along, yet curiously, as mentioned, any further expansion of the LiDAR investigations, academic funding has been stonewalled. Could their reluctance to continue further investigations on a mission which has already clearly cost a lot of funding due to them actually having discovered yet another complexly, intelligently, clearly advanced pre-flood mega-metropolis? Well, we find said possibilities and the rapid growth of independently owned LiDAR technology incredibly exciting.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel to support us. Don't forget to click the bell icon for notifications on latest videos.